Hello there and welcome to Creative Autistic. Today I thought I'd talk about why I always look the same in my videos, because there are a few reasons why I do this, and the most important one I'll probably talk about towards the end of the video. So let's get started. So firstly, I'm an artist and illustrator, and I went to art college in my 30s and I got a degree in visual communication, and it was specialising in illustration. So I'm a hugely visual person, and through my course I kind of learned about the importance of an artist developing their own individual style and their own individual language, and it allowed me to experiment with my own artwork, and I eventually arrived at a style of essentially like cartooning in clay. And I'll just show you some examples of my work here. And it took me quite a long time to be able to develop this kind of look or aesthetic. And I really like how all my work looks like it belongs together. And let me tell you, it took me ages to arrive at a style that I was happy with, but I just really like uniformity. So once I left art school, I set up a channel called Clay Disarray, and it's essentially named after my art pseudonym. And through that I'd experiment with all sorts of videos really. So there were tutorials, some process videos, review videos, and because I'd learnt so much about developing your own individual style at art college, it was something that I obviously wanted to incorporate in my channel as well. So if you look back at old thumbnails on Clay Disarray, you'll see earlier versions basically of me looking like this. And I just really like the whole thing about things looking like they belong together. I've always really enjoyed that. So it was absolutely something that I wanted to do on my art channel as well. So in the early days, I had a lot to learn about filmmaking for YouTube content, because it's not something that comes naturally to me. So I made loads of errors in the early days about things I'd wear that kind of look all right in real life, but for whatever reason, they just didn't translate to the screen at all. And I'd think, oh my God, why did I wear that? It just doesn't look right. Or perhaps I'd wear something that would strobe a bit. So I kind of set out to find a look that kind of worked on screen. And I eventually arrived at a kind of stripy top, and it kind of worked for me and it looks all right on screen. So I went out and bought another 3 versions of the same top, because I just thought, you know, it's really easy for me to be able to kind of know what I'm going to wear. There's a whole lot of headspace involved in making a video, and being able to remove one of those huge things that you have to think about, i.e. what you're going to wear and does it look all right, is for me really helpful. And also, if you're always wearing the same thing and you've got the same hair, it's a lot easier in terms of continuity, because it's really frustrating to finish recording on a video only to think, crikey, I've missed out something that's really important. And it takes a lot of headspace to think, gosh, what was I wearing and how was my hair, and trying to replicate that look. Whereas if you're always wearing the same thing and looking kind of similar, it's somewhat easier to insert a new piece like I'm doing here. And the last and probably the most important reason why I choose to look the same in videos and on thumbnails is a kind of sense of anonymity. Bear with me on this. My Clay Disarray channel is about 8 or 9 years old now. And I remember a couple of years into that channel, I was stood by a bus stop, or at a bus stop in a fairly nearby town, and some bloke in a passing car shouted "Clay" at me. And I don't know who he was. I didn't recognise the car, but it kind of unnerved me, I have to say. Now, it could have been a complete coincidence, but I have no idea why anybody would shout "Clay" at somebody at a bus stop. unless perhaps they were a clay artist. It's hard to know. So as an autistic person, I really struggle with the thought of bumping into people that I know when I'm out and about, at the shop or something. And I'm sure a lot of autistic people would find it kind of similarly stressful. So the thought of somebody I don't know approaching me to have a chat is even more stressful. If I'm not prepared to have a conversation with somebody, it really takes a lot out of me. And that was around about the time where I thought, I really enjoy making YouTube content because it's different to kind of using clay all the time and kind of breaks up my workloads. And I don't want to stop making content. So, what can I do as a small concession to helping myself feel a bit safer online? So, I basically arrived at the thoughts that if I make myself look the same online all the time, it might be a little bit more difficult for people to recognise me if they see me out and about, because I don't always look like this. Sometimes I'll have my hair like this. These are a pair of glasses that I wear, so it is a version of myself. But I think it would make it slightly more tricky for somebody to think, yeah, I know her from YouTube. I could be completely wrong on this, but it just makes me feel a bit safer as a content creator. And because I've been doing this so long on Clay Disarray, it just made sense to do exactly the same on Creative Autistic. This is a really new channel. It's only a few months old, so I was just so used to doing this, it just makes sense for me to continue with this kind of aesthetic, really. I really admire autistic creators that have gone out of their way to really make themselves feel safe. And I have to mention Blind Boy here. And if you don't know who Blind Boy is, he's an amazing podcaster. He's a satirist. He's an author, I think. And the Blind Boy podcast is just phenomenal. And if you haven't checked it out, I'd implore you to go and give him a listen. He's just a hugely intelligent person, and he's got such a lovely voice. He's got a really soft-spoken Limerick accent, and I'm often playing his podcasts, but he has gone to great lengths to keep his anonymity in the form of wearing a plastic shopping bag on his head. It's actually a mask now that it's made out of shopping bags, I believe, but he's gone out of his way to make himself feel safe, and I think that's wholly admirable. Incidentally, I would love to know if you've got any other examples of autistic people keeping themselves safe or safer in this way. Now, because I'm a tiny YouTuber, I can't do that because nobody would want to watch my videos, and parts of creating content is wanting people to see it, isn't it? So yeah, I just wish that it was an option, but unfortunately it's not. So this is my kind of version of doing that. I just think it's, yeah, just a small concession to my own personal safety, really. And finally, I just wanted to mention why I felt compelled to make this video today, although I'm sure I would have wanted to make it at some point, but I had a comment on my channel last week calling me a caricature, which for whatever reason really stung. Now, through my other channel, I've obviously had that for about 9 years, and I've had various bits of kind of hate along the way, which I think is part and parcel of the YouTube experience, and certainly if you've had your channel for a few years, but it's always been along the lines of, your artwork's shit, or, some derivative comments like that. And I guess it's rarely been sort of personal, really. And for that reason, I think it was a lot easier to brush off. But yeah, this one kind of got me, really. I think the comment said something along the lines of, you're a caricature, it's not funny. So for whatever reason, this person took great offence to me, or how I present myself, or perhaps the way I speak, and probably a combination of everything. But as a high masking autistic person who spent decades masking, This comment is actually really insulting. I was just flabbergasted that somebody might think that I'm playing some kind of character on YouTube when this channel is all about me learning about autism and trying to reframe my whole experience as an autistic person. And I think that everybody that I know or have known in real life would say that this is actually a fair representation of who I am as a masked autistic person. The only difference I would say is that I'm a lot more sweary in real life, but you know, it's not something that people want to see on YouTube a lot of the time, so I minimise that where I can. So anyway, I hope this video gives you a better idea as to why I always look the same in my videos and on thumbnails. It's primarily about personal safety really, and feeling a little bit more anonymous in that, you know, I can choose to have my hair differently, wear different clothes, wear different glasses, and go about my business feeling like, you know, people might not recognise me, and that for me is invaluable really. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave those down below, and I'll be back next week with another video, so give it a like if you got this far, and I'll see you again soon.